Hey, everybody, it's Matt Michaels here. And today I am joined by one of the rising stars in the wrestling business. You might have seen him working here stateside for New Japan Wrestling, which is just amazing in itself to be talking to one of the actual young lions, Mr. Karl Fredericks. Karl, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Former young lion.
Well,
Big,
yes.
yeah. Former young. I'm a guy now, man. I'm a guy.
You've gone
Yeah,
from
yeah.
baby Simba up
Yeah,
to the
I'm.
lion.
Trust me, man. For as much as it took to graduate the dojo, I'm gonna make sure and let everyone know that I'm a graduated student of the dojo.
Well, let me just, for listeners who don't know about that process, we'll talk about that first, then we'll get a little background in a bit. But since we're on that, what was it like for you to first get the opportunity? How did you get the opportunity? And then what was the training like and how was the process? Because I think most people who go through it, it's a fucking incredible experience. To just say the least, it's something that's very honorable and respected within the business. And I'm just shining proud that you're
Uh,
you're now at the level of you've graduated. So what was everything like for that experience?
Man, I got a good taste of just about all of the all the good and the bad, not bad, but just the tough things about the business, everything like that. It was it's real here in New Japan. It's
Yeah.
much different than anywhere else in the world. Not to say who's or what's better.
Right.
I made my choice, and I'm very happy with it, and I'm proud, very proud to be here, be a part of this, and have made it through the system the way I did, and just the
Sure.
way that you got to do it. I think for me initially the hardest part was stripping everything back down to the creative character, the move set, all the stuff, because
Right.
before, in the indies, I had a few years under my belt. I'd been to Florida twice and been offered that whole thing, so
Right.
I was going, stuff was going. And I was the big F, I was the big F and deal on the indies. I'm a bit of an eccentric, uh, uh, outlandish, shout out Zicky Dice character, just me as a human being. So, and at that point in my career, things really started to roll because I had connected the human being with, the artist and the athlete in the ring, and figuring out how to put myself out there and just, like they say, be yourself, turn up to 11 or whatever, things like that. So, everything that got me there, everything that got me the job here, then, being stripped down to that, to this whole new thing, and then just being tested physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. It's scary, but I think all of the reasons that it was hard, or all the reasons why everybody that comes out of the dojo, everybody that makes it through the system, they go off and succeed because, either having experience and coming in, being stripped down and doing it, or just diving right in, and all is that, it's like the
Right.
military. And there was a bit of a, just like we all have our own, question ourselves anyways. So then it was like, all right, well, I hope, can I succeed here? Can I succeed with this new
Sure.
style? Can I adapt is, the biggest thing, I guess. And yeah, I mean, I'm, I did it. It's been a wonderful ride. It's been incredibly rewarding because it was so goddamn hard. And yeah, man, not only that, but I mean, just the things I've gotten out of it, just as far as personal growth, stuff like that. Gabe, Alex, and Clark are my brothers now. Like those guys are my, I'm here in Reno now. The guys are back in LA. Gabe's in the No Gay Dojo, but So if
Right.
I'm having a bad day, like those are the guys I go to, or vice versa, things like that. So it's a lot. It's just special, everything
Sure.
that this experience has been so far, and it's been so much more than I ever thought pro wrestling could be for me.
Yeah.
Because it's especially being here in America, everyone, not everyone, but most kids just want those Instagram followers and to be on TV type of thing, and go be a big star and all of that. But it
Right.
just wrestling means so much more to me now than I ever thought it could, and it meant everything prior to this. So
Sure. Sure. Along those lines, when you look at the um the basic training we get as regular Americans who seek out a wrestling school, and
yeah,
there's different degrees of how different schools operate and teach. Is it um almost a very kind of just egg shattering kind of thing to basically remove that that idea of when you're training, you're doing it to a lot of kids are doing it because they love wrestling and because they want to be famous, and all the pitfalls of what you know it's not really about. Does New Japan instill into you what wrestling is about, going back into kind of the history of the different art forms of what grappling was and how storytelling and grappling kind of come together?
yeah, I think just the easiest example I can think of right now is it's everybody that comes to that dojo. You come through the system and they make sure you're a wrestler first. That's why they
Yeah.
strip it down. For several months we weren't doing pro wrestling moves. We weren't doing the body slams that were a part of our move set. We were shooting.
Right.
Shibata was
Yeah.
teaching. He was in there stretching us, tapping us out, teaching us how to do all this stuff for real. Because you're gonna, if you want to be a pro wrestler, you're gonna be a wrestler,
Right.
and have a knowledge, understanding, and I think the most important thing, which you get that being in there and doing it, is just having a respect for the business, for wrestling itself. And then I think understanding all of the stuff on the real end, and especially it's also just look at the history of like American wrestling versus the history of Japanese wrestling. So just nailing in those fundamentals and that respect of um the actual wrestling.
Right.
That's just being respectful to Japanese wrestling history, period. Because in Japan, that's just what it is. So it's just a cultural difference thing. Like I
Sure.
said, I grew up Attitude Era. I was a Monday Night War kid. I was WCW fan first. Like I get it. I get all ends of it. I
Right.
love the art. I love the sport. I love it's flavors of ice cream.
Yeah.
And I've
Sure.
just you know that's like as far as what your the fans tastes are, or what's being done here in America, whatever. It's flavors of ice cream. And then as a performer, you got to figure out what flavor you are. And
Right.
for me it's Japanese wrestling, and that's what it's become.
um who has been a standout mentor to you in terms of, and it doesn't have to be someone who's directly a teacher of yours, but maybe even someone that you admire from a distance in terms of starting to understand everything coming together, um, in terms of where you're starting to go mindset wise to get yourself to that next level.
Absolute biggest influence, mentor period that I have, first and foremost, would be Adam Thornstowe of the Reno
Yeah.
Scum. That was
Sure.
one of my original trainers, and he just took it upon himself to take me and teach me. And he was, as far as like that mindset goes, maybe it's just me, but I think like pro wrestling is tough. you know, and for, you know, one thing I found as I've climbed the ranks, you know, just because it's, you know, I think if you care, this shit should be stressful. You know,
Right.
it's, you know, and if you're not putting pressure on yourself, then, you know, what are you doing here? But you know, like it's just it takes a lot of mental strength just to get going. Not only that, but just part of that mental strength is discipline, you know, self-discipline, and like, and even just like being honest with yourself. I remember one time early on in my career when I finally first started to get down to LA. um you know, I've always known I was good or was going to be good. What, you know, it's what I'm here for, right?
Right.
You know, I try to not let my confidence be mistaken for arrogance, but
Right.
um,
Yep.
you know, but then, you know, at the time too, you know, I'm like 26 years old. I'll be 31 in July, so I'd like to think I've matured a bit. But you know, part of it is having, you know, a trainer like Adam. Like, if it wasn't for him, you know, I might be one of those people I can't stand on the internet. You know, and just little things like, you know, we're driving home from LA, and I'm finally starting to get down there semi regularly. And you know, I just even make the comment like, you know, a little frustrated or whatever, you know, like, man, I need to get down here more, you know, because I started wrestling at the same time as like Brody King, Jake Atlas, Jungle Boy. You know, I see
Sure.
these guys and all the great shows they're on in LA, and not only that, but like I want to work with them. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, man, I got to get down. I need to be with these guys. Like, I should be there with them. Like those guys are gonna go do something, and
Right.
I'm one of them. Like, I'm one of them. And you know, so I just mentioned, you know, like, I need to get down to LA more. Like, this is frustrating. And before I could even get my thought out, he's like, how many promoters did you email this week? He's like, how many? Like, who did you reach out to this week? You know, and then I
Yep.
had that moment, you know, and just like you're doing now, I was like, you're right. You know, so then
Yep.
and then of course, you know, I went home, emailed some promoters, and
Yeah.
started working more, you know. And it was just like things like that. Just, you know, he mentored me as a to be a professional, you know, and in the ring and outside of the ring and all that stuff. But also both him and Dave, you know, they taught me not to take any shit and stand up for yourself, and things of that sort. And then, as like, Adam mentored me as a man, you know.
Yeah.
I
Sure.
was a, you know, newly graduated, uh, you know, full of piss and vinegar young man when I started. And you know, just like anything, you know, like, I don't think anyone's ever had everything figured out at all times. You know, I was a young man with tons of potential, and there was when there was times when he was like, hey, like, you know, that's going to get you in trouble. That's going to get in front, you know, in the way of wrestling. Or
Right.
you know, or just when I, you know, if I was down or something like that, you know, he was the guy I would, you know, he's my road dad, and now you know, one of my best friends, and someone that, you know, a father and a husband and a
Yeah.
worker, and a human being that I strive to be like, you know. So I had him, and it's pretty cool, again, just like the LA Dojo stuff, being come through the system, and we start touring. And you know, TJP, who also knows Adam, I met, you know, and Adam's always had, you know, nothing but nice things to say about TJ. And TJ's kind of done the same things that Adam has done, just without warrant, you know, just been there, you know. And
Yeah.
with
Sure.
before, you know, before and after show, you know, he watches the matches, or you know, has ideas, or tells you, this is, you know, do it this way, this is better. And then just obviously being able to watch him and work with him, you know, he's the smoothest wrestler on earth, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, he's been someone who's just like taken upon himself to just be there for me as a dude, as a wrestler, as a, you know, a tenured member of the locker room, all of those things. So, and
Yeah.
and then on top of that, you know, we have Shibata-san, who is there to go to bat for us, and he's our real dad now, you know. And
Yeah.
we're his kids, we're his sons out there, and we're his team and all this. And he treats it like that. So I just fell in with the right people from the jump. And not only that, but I think it goes to show you, like, I don't know, man. Like I've been doing things the way that Adam and Dave told me to my entire career, and look where it got me, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that I think that I I believe that I'm somebody that would have found his way regardless of the school or what have you, you know, because this was my mission. This was what I was gonna do.
Right.
But I think, you know, within 3 years, you know, I'm signed in New Japan, had been to Florida twice, and had been offered a contract with WWE. So I
Yeah.
think, you know, I think that whatever Reno Scum did with me was the right stuff, you know. And they're also like just like they're humble guys, and they don't, you know, they won't tell you that, because they'll tell you is they've had, you know, 100 students, and they try to coach them the same way. You know, they tell you what they think, and that's it. You know, that they have the
Right.
same style of coaching. So it's like that for me. I think just I got lucky. I
Yeah.
got super lucky. And same thing with even, you know, it was like a last minute thing that I was able to scrape up the money. I borrowed money from my uncle to pay for the New Japan camp. It was a 3-day camp. And I was going to happen to be in LA for like 4 days, because I started getting down to LA more.
Right.
And
Sure.
yeah, and I was just, you know, I had been waiting for almost a year for the next call of like, hey, you know, time to report to the PC type of thing.
Right.
And you know, just I was like, well, this would be real stupid of me not to pass up this opportunity, even just to go learn, you know, just go,
Sure.
because I would go to every seminar, anything on the West Coast. Like I would go to every single one of them. So like, yeah, I got in the very last camp out of that whole, you know, I think like 4-month stretch they were doing the camps, and went and worked hard and got myself a job.
What was the transition like for you, for, you know, being a student and then getting a chance to go to the main roster? Was that nerve-wracking in any way, or were you comfortably, I mean, obviously the confidence, you made a great point. Confidence versus arrogance is very, very crucial to realize. And with your confidence, did that plus your preparation prepare you for the opportunity of now being put on a bigger stage?
Yeah, I think it's I was ready. I would have told you I was ready before I went out in the black trunks period, you know.
Yeah, sure.
I wasn't, not because I wasn't, because all the stuff that, you know, stretch of touring from June 2019 to Wrestle Kingdom that year, and then later that month, January 2020, that's when I separated my shoulder, you know. But that stretch of touring, I was on every single tour from the G1 on. And
Yeah.
so being able to, one, go out there and exhibit all the stuff that Shibata-san had taught us, and do, you know, go out and do my job and go kill it that way. Then being able to perform in front of, you know, by the end of the G1, you know, that Budokan, you know, it's like 12,000 people the last 2 nights, the G1. And then not to mention every single show, you know, Hiroshima, everywhere, you know, they're sold out. So,
Yeah.
you know, that 5-week stretch, not only that, but then like seeing how just brutal the tour is on the guys doing the G1, brutal on every part of the state, you know, everyone. It's a long tour, and then going right into the next tour, and then going
Yeah.
straight to UK, and just, you know, all of that stuff. So, and then that whole stretch ends with my debut at the Tokyo Dome. So, just that experience alone, and you know, and then in the tag league with Goto-san. And for tag league, that was my first time I went to Japan by myself. Shibata-san was in America, the rest of the boys were in America.
Wow.
So that was, you know, that for me, that was like a pretty, I was nervous for that, you know, ready,
Right.
but I was, you know, nervous, because it was like, okay, well, if you want that next step, like you got to go, you know, prove you're ready. And I did. And so fast forward however many months later, you know, coming back from an injury, I get that green light. We're going to, you know, get things going. And then it's on the debut show of, you know, Lions Break Collision. and it was
Yeah.
which eventually became New Japan Strong. So it
Right.
was like, obviously I wanted to do it in front of people, you know, um, and then not only that, and it's big, but it's like, okay, lions break collision. Well, here's the lion making his, here's his big break here. That was the story of, those 3 shows. So then on
Right.
top of that, it's like, okay, your new character, it's not like if you're watching from your television, you can see it happen and you can hear the audience and you're like, okay, people are with this shit, this is good, it's going, so it's like I was afraid, like, maybe, it could fall flat, or not only that, it's
Right.
like, well, I'm like, that story is kind of the selling point for this stuff, and they were doing stuff in front of them. And actually, at that, yeah, they were about to start doing stuff in front of people, or they did the New Japan Cup finals, so
Right.
they had an audience, they were doing stuff over in Japan, and it was kind of like, this experiment, and
Right.
but at the same time, like, they trusted that, and that was an opportunity that I was given, and I think I'm very happy with how that went and how everything's been going. But this kind of turned into basically a 2-year excursion. It's been
Sure.
it'll be, still no idea what the plans are because of COVID and visas and stuff like that, but it'll probably be
Yeah.
close to 2 years since I've wrestled in front of fans in Japan by the time
Yeah.
I go back. So in the long run too, that'll probably be a good thing. It'll probably work out to my advantage, because it's nice to step away, and that's what you do on an excursion anyways. You step away and,
Yeah.
change, switch it up, and come back and go get after it. And I'm ready to go back to work. And they say find what you love and let it kill you. So I'm ready to go run myself into the ground for this company.
Well, you just made a very good point too about how if you go away, here in the States, when the territories broke up, it was very then contingent about you're this character, you play this character. The bigger you got at that character, the more money you take it.
Mhm.
But that old theory of territories where you could be in Texas for, 6 months, 8 months, and then go to, Portland or New York or something, and you totally disappear. And then when you come back, it's fresh. Fans are
Yeah.
hungry for you now. And I
Yeah.
think with the development of new character and getting back over there in front of the fans, I think that that's going to like I get emotional thinking about it. I think that first match for you is going to be like
And I'll tell you, I'll be, like I said, I'm ready. It's what I want. I'm excited. But yeah, man, I'm gonna be real nervous, because it's not, we're wrestling in front of nobody. Not to knock Strong. Like, Strong's, in my opinion, has been an amazing venture this whole time. And seeing some of the guys, the newer guys, the unsigned guys come in, and just seeing how they've adapted, one, to just certain things on our show as opposed to where they worked prior, and then just seeing their effort, let alone everybody that's been on our end that's been able to come in and try and do stuff. It's been awesome. But my the real debut and the real stuff really will start when I get back to Japan. So it's time. But out of everybody's hands, really.
sure.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I love the stories of the dojo and hearing things from all the different aspects of different wrestlers. But of course, like you said, you didn't start here in the States training with the Scum.
Mhm.
The Scum have a very good relationship with Joe DeFalco here in FSW, and you've had encounters with Joe and kind of got to
Yeah,
work with
I
him a
was
little
working for
bit.
Joe very consistently for about, yes, I got signed in 2018. I started in 2015. I think
Yeah.
it was probably, it was either late 2015 or early 2016 that was my first time working for Joe. And then yeah, I mean, like every month I was there. And yeah, FSW, like, you know, and the roster too, like, you know, Chris Bay, there was a lot of guys there that was, you know, just
Yeah.
it was a real good locker room to be a part of. And then there was always somebody that I grew up watching on TV around, you know, so there was
Sure.
always, yeah, there was always something cool going on. But yeah, FSW is one of the staple places for me. I would say that, you know, obviously APW is that's my first
Ugh.
home. I would say, you
Yeah.
know,
Sure.
Mac was great to me, and that was the place that really put me on, and the place that I really developed, because it wasn't until I was a heel, you know, I had heel turn and then had that run with the internet title, that I really,
Sure.
you know, I got to wrestle at the Cow Palace twice, you know, for that
Yeah.
one of those matches. The second match with Jacob Fatu, still to this day, is like one of my fondest memories in the ring. You know, it was just it was a really good day, you know. So
Well, you know, speaking of that, when you got the opportunity to present yourself as a heel, how much more freedom did you feel with that, in terms of, you know, with babyface, there's a lot of constraints, and even though lines are getting more gray, you know, you still need those traditional baby faces. But man, playing the heel, does that not just make you just kind of a little gleeful, because you get to just explore those instincts that you have to, you know, kind of be like, hey,
yeah,
you
I
know,
mean, there is, yeah, there is, you know, on paper there is, you know, there definitely is more freedom, and you know, everything you just said I agree with. But you know, just like anything else, if you're if you're not doing it right, if you don't believe in it, you know,
sure.
people, bullshit, bullshit. You know, it's just no different than being a baby face. You know, you can't come out and say, "Come on, baby," you know, pissed off. Like, you know, and that's what we all do, though. Like, legit, that's
Right.
what we all do. You know, when you first start, and there's, you
Yep.
know, there's to an extent, there's nothing wrong with it. You know, you got, like, again, we all make those mistakes, and we all that's and then so for me it was hard, because like before, like I've always been good in the ring, good enough to go out, you know, all those things, you know, but like as I'm developing in the ring, my performance part starts to develop as this baby face. And then that's just playing off of, you know, you know, flashy move set, good looking kid, nice gear, cool moves, whatever. You know,
Right.
but there wasn't a whole lot of substance to it until you know, until the heel turn. But then even then, like it took a minute, you know, because
Sure.
at first it wasn't it, because then I remember I want to say this is the quote Adam used something, but you know, I did my heel turn after a tag match, and then the next month I come back and have my first singles match as a heel, and the match itself wasn't spectacular, but it wasn't anything, you know, the wrestling itself wasn't really like the big problem. It was as far as, you know, did I go out and do great or did I do okay? I went out and did okay. And that, you know, as a heel, it was like I didn't know what I was doing, you know. So I did the
Sure.
equivalent of coming out and saying, "Come on," but you know, and you just come out and walk out like Billy Badass, is what Adam said. He's like, you can't just be like me, you know, like
Right.
you gotta add
Right.
you gotta add layers to it. There's got to be a why. You can't just be stone face guy again,
Right.
piss off like. And so it was, yeah, it was bullshit. Don't want to see it. You know, there's 100 okay heels like that at every territory or whatever, you know.
Right.
But once I started, you know, once I start to figure out the layers to it and things like that, then it was, you know, I can still do the flashy stuff, but then I can put extra, you know, extra spin on it, or I can do the flashy stuff like a dickhead, which is,
Yeah.
you know, even like,
Yeah.
and then when a heel can can do flashy things, it's like, oh, I don't like that, you know. It's because it's like, because if you hate to admit, like, oh, that was pretty nice, like that was cool, you know. And then
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
And then, then you get to blur those lines between confidence and arrogance, and that part
Yeah.
of it's fun. And yeah, so it's just, if if you don't find, if you don't add real layers to it yourself, or you don't actually put yourself into it, those, it's like, hey, these are your limitations in between these lines, but like you only know how to go this far anyways and use this much space or this much of the spectrum, then it's still not going
Sure.
to be good. If you, as opposed to someone who knows how to, his restraints are here, but he uses that whole spectrum because he knows how. you know
Right.
Tanahashi, you know
Oh, yeah.
ultimate baby face, that. And he also fights mean and hard, but that's that fighting spirit thing. That's Japanese wrestling. But
Right.
you know but he works like Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
He's the perfect baby face because he uses that entire spectrum. He understands that. He's the best.
Yeah. I can't help but notice the posters behind you. And as you're talking character, how much of an influence do some of those types of movies, like you look at Scream, and by God, I remember the first time I saw that film, it was just a revelation as an actor of holy crap, I didn't see these turns coming
Yeah, yeah,
because there was
yeah,
so many different layers going on.
yeah. I
Like,
think that's a great.
yeah,
Yeah,
how do
I never even thought to really connect those dots. But yeah, I think that's the Scream series would be a real good studying point for pro wrestling, as far as like the stories and then like the characters too. My favorite thing I think about those movies, and I try my best to be as well spoken as possible. Like I this is how I talk. But
sure.
like all those characters, all those villains, they're all so intelligent, and it's a who done it movie. It's a mystery, it's a mystery,
Right.
to solve the whole time too. And at some point, you listen to any of those little monologues they get, or those big chunks of, right at the end there, and it's just so well done and it's so good. Funny enough, about horror movies period, I got Friday the
Sure.
13th on this wall. But I always joke about someday if I, coaching wrestlers or have a school or something someday, like for me, like all the stuff that I have to offer, if you haven't been able to tell yet, like I'm totally fine with talking for long extended periods of time.
Sure.
But I think like all the, I can would be able to teach fundamentals and all that, help people learn how to wrestle. But like my seminar, like any of the good stuff in my seminar would be lecture. You know,
Yeah.
I like philosophy and stuff like that, and then relating things, just like you just did with the movies, and relating other things I love to
Yeah.
wrestling. And I was watching Friday the 13th Part 3, and there's like, there's like, like the little biker gang, and like the guy's name is Spider, and he's got like
Yeah.
this shitty, this shitty vest on with a spider on it, and it's like, oh, that guy's a bad, that's Billy Badass over there. And then just like watching some of those bad horror movies, it's no different than like it's someone goes in and checks the empty barn for no fucking reason. And you're like, you're watching this horror movie hoping to be scared, hoping to be entertained, and then like these little plot holes, someone goes off and does something stupid, or the girl runs upstairs, and you're like, why the fuck would you do that? Well, kids, that's the same thing that people think when you do too much dumb stuff in your match, probably. And when your name is Spider, and you're just, what does that mean? His name is Spider, and he's got the cool okay biker jacket that looks like it's like, so it's
Well,
presentation and things like that. Like I think there's just funny lessons in there, that can be related, because like
yeah,
you'll watch those movies and you'll laugh and you'll shit on it, but then just like I said, we all do it, we all make these mistakes while we're coming up. Like it's just a really easy point there, because it's like, well, we're we're sport and we're entertainment, we're all this stuff too. So
right.
you can't have plot holes, and your
Right.
character needs to have depths and layers, and it needs to make sense. And then if you're you're the cool guy, like, yeah, well, you're wearing gas station sunglasses, you're not cool guy. Like, like it's just all this stuff that like people don't really think about. And then
Yeah.
if you're on top of like your presentation, like if I go watch Avengers, and barring, aside from Endgame, because off season Thor was hilarious, but if I
Right.
go to watch the first Thor movie, or if I go to watch Avengers, and Thor doesn't look like fucking Thor, I'm gonna be pissed. I want my money back, you know. And then you got, if you're the big guy, if you're whatever, you know, it's like, look the part, you know. And this is not like, I don't care if you have abs, I don't care if you're you know, but like, look the part, and then just actually, you know, be in shape, be an athlete. You don't have to have a, you know. And the other end of the spectrum is like, being a body doesn't make you great, you know. Having a body doesn't make you great either. Because just like the movie, like, you still got to act, you still got to play that role, you got to play, you know, you got to make me forget that I'm watching a silly superhero movie. And yeah, so I'll probably just end up opening like a film school it's a wrestling seminar or something. I don't know.
Seriously, that'd be awesome. I mean, you came out with some, you know, a good philosophy, and that is the spider analysis is really good, because one of the things that I think gets lost a lot of times is that when you have a character like that, where you're obvious trying to say this is the bad dude, right? But you have an ultimate bad dude in Jason, and it was 3D was I mean, I remember as a kid that was the movie. Holy macro, like, all of a sudden Jason was awesome. It was like, and it's because you put something in there that was supposed to be badass, but he wasn't badass because your villain was the badass thing. And that's, you know, how the villains, like Freddy, same thing, Freddy Krueger became so much more popular to us because we became invested. The villain became the baby face in these films.
You're like, that's why I'm watching this. Not only that, but you still watch it because you want to, like, I want to see Freddy Krueger and I want to hear him and his shitty puns. That's what I'm here for. You know, I love the like, sidebar. For if whoever's watching this, if you guys haven't seen the Leprechaun movies, or if you watch horror movies and you know how good Freddy Krueger is on the mic, on the stick, and cracking jokes and all that, you know, his puns. Leprechaun is the best. He's the Conor McGregor of horror. He's his shit talk is the best and the funniest. But so it's like, but again, end of the day, he's a villain. You know, and any good villain is like, I'm going to pay money to watch this guy get punched in the mouth. But when he cuts from, you know, when he's talking or when he's doing his things, you still respect it, and you still, you know, you're a little part of you is a fan of it. Maybe you don't want to admit it or whatever. You still want to see Freddy lose at the end of the day, but you want to see Freddy go be Freddy, you know?
Well, and you also know that, you know, it's a very parallel wrestling point. You know that Freddy will lose at the end of the day. You know, it's like, Freddy's not going to win, because if he wins, then you've got no franchise. And what Hollywood found out,
but if Freddy's poor, but if he's not a good villain, he can't keep losing, and, you know, because at that point it's like, what does it mean when you beat Freddy? But he's such a good villain that he can lose all day and it doesn't matter, because here, take my money, you know.
Exactly. And I was just going to say, it's like they discovered this thing about how a heel can actually become your moneymaker, and Hollywood was doing it way before, you know, Vince was taking a chance with, you know, he'd always stay to a Hogan. WWE always stayed to Bob Backlund.
It's a great point.
And it's just like, yeah, man, if you think about the theory of it, your series keeps going because you're invested into this villain. But in the end, the villain is going to have to lose. We know that going in. But at the same time, we want to see it.
And then we want to see him. And even though you're invested in but ultimately you do not only, you know, you think that, you know, he's going to lose, but you also want him to lose. As much as you want to go see him, you also, you know, you would know what to do with yourself if at the end of the movie it's like, oh, he just killed everybody. That's it, huh? Like, and then you're sad, like, you know, it just, that doesn't, nobody goes home happy there.
Right. And it's so, you know, that to me has always been the thing. I started acting when I was young, and pro wrestling came into my life a few years after that. And not knowing it, the acting understanding acting at a young age allowed me to kind of understand these characters without really realizing why. And the biggest
Yeah.
example to me, Roddy Piper was everything. He was so good. And I loved him. But man, if he wrestled Hogan, I didn't want to see him win
Yeah.
because Hulk's the champ, man. We want,
Yeah.
but boy, did I want to see him, shave Haiti kids, mohawk, and when they were going into WrestleMania too.
You want to see, I want to see him get away with as much as he can before he gets put in his place. But
right. So that's interesting.
yeah,
It's just interesting how everything ties in. Now, speaking of tying in, I just got to ask you about, you do DJing, man.
yeah.
How does that fit into your persona, your lifestyle? Have you been able to incorporate that DJ persona into your wrestling?
See, for me, and the one thing that I'm honestly very, very proud of, as far as just as far as I've gotten in wrestling, and with fitting into this my DJ gear's over here. Usually it's sitting right here, but I moved it. But I still wrestle under my real name, and like I don't have a fantastic fucking wrestling name. I don't. It's like my name was never supposed to be that.
Marquee,
But
yeah,
you know,
sure.
but like I'm the fucking marquee, if you ask me. And I believe that. And I'm not. I'm the guy who went through the dojo. I'm the guy that got into the dojo. I'm the guy who made the decision to go the hard route.
Right.
This is me. I'm the one who's done all this stuff. I was the one who was ready to go seize that opportunity and get the job. And everything is, it really, really is just that extension of myself. I've never, of course like I said, like I study characters in film, for the way I present myself, let alone just the way I like, I said, like I pride myself on being a well-spoken dude and things of that
Yeah.
sort, so those things that I see when I'm watching TV, or just even meeting new people, whatever.
Yeah.
This is all just me. This is Karl Fredericks. That's it. And what you see is what you get, but what you get is all this stuff. Like it's that. And so with DJing, it's I play fast. I like fast, aggressive bass music, and like hard style, which is like huge in Japan. And so it's just like, and I also just play my gear a little bit unconventional and things of that sort too. So like it's like I just like, you can hear strong style in my DJing. You
Yeah,
can,
sure.
you know what I mean? Like that's the way I feel about that. And then really one of the things that honestly helped me just pick up DJing so quick. I've been doing music my entire life. I've been in bands. I was doing like solo singing, forever. But every form of art, everything is storytelling. But it wasn't until and then being through the dojo, working for New Japan, that I understand pro wrestling and the storytelling in pro wrestling. Like that's my language of storytelling. I
Right.
get it. That's what I get. So I can see the parallel. Now I can watch a movie and have better appreciation for it, but I can't write a script. I can't.
Sure.
But I understand storytelling better because of wrestling. But I always have to come back to like, oh, this is like that. Just like we did with the horror movies. And when you're putting together a song, and you're you're, whether it be writing the song or piecing it together, that's storytelling. That's taking
Yeah.
people on the ride. That's what's this song about, what are you saying, things like that. Why would you don't put too much shit in there, because it's
Right.
story. But now, so like I think of like a match or anything like that, and then putting together a whole hour-long set, or work hours plus, whatever. Like now I hear all of my favorite DJs and I study their sets, and I can hear the story in it. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, this is what, you know, here's where we're at in the match. I was like, this is what's going on here. And here's a callback to this. And so now those ideas coming, but like, it's almost like I'm seeing like moves in a match at the same time I'm thinking of stuff when I'm putting together my music. So I think for anybody that's, you know, inclined to be a part of the arts, obviously you probably can dabble in a few other ones. For me, it's always been music and pro wrestling, but pro wrestlers in my eyes have always been rock stars anyways, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, that's what you do. You go, you clock in, you go out there in front of thousands of people and you go fucking light that shit up and you go put on a show, you know. And yeah, it's been hand in hand for me. And I've always been like super into dance music anyways. So it was, out of all the things I've done in music,